Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I am joined by Mark Kennedy for a game of Hero Catastrophe. Hero Catastrophe is a game about the last survival checks of your mightiest heroes. It is a rules-light RPG that starts with your death saving throws and has you play to find out your fate. In it, players take on the role of fantasy adventurers trapped in a desperate, some would say a hopeless situation. Confronted with their own mortality, players begin the game by rolling death saves that tell you if your character lives or dies by the end of the session. And then you play to find out how the players get into that position, what happens to the characters, and how they ultimately come to accept or deny their fate. This game fucking rips. I had a really great time with it. I really enjoyed playing it. I really enjoyed making this episode. I think you're going to love listening to it. You can find more information about Hero Catastrophe in the show notes. Now, before we dive in, a brief content warning. This episode does include some references to flesh-eating insects. Listener discretion is advised. Hey everybody, President Jeff here with a quick statement that we stand in complete solidarity with our friends in the WGA and SAG-AFTRA unions as they strike, fighting for better working conditions and a better, more equitable path forward in the industry. We stand in complete solidarity, which means that we will not be taking or promoting any struck work during the duration of the strike. And of course, the best way, if you would like to support the strike, is by donating to the Entertainment Community Fund, which supports individuals whose work has been put on hold due to the strike. Anyone who donates to the Entertainment Community Fund can send me proof of a donation of any amount. I will send you an exclusive, secret, never released Party of One episode, as well as a digital version of any single one of my games, your choice. Thanks everybody. Solidarity forever. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am so excited to be sitting down with Mark Kennedy. Mark, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm very much looking forward to this.
I'm really, really excited to be playing today's game. And speaking of, why don't you let our lovely listeners at home know about what you've got going on that you might want them to know about, as well as the game that we are playing this week?
Yeah, so the game is called Hero Catastrophe. And like any catastrophe, it is kind of taking over my life at the current moment. Getting it ready to...
as it is wont to do.
Exactly, right. Getting it ready to publish is, it's been really interesting. It's my first time doing this. I'm a performance artist. I have a background in like collaborative improvisation, theater making. So it obviously translates. But I took a workshop last fall and was inspired to create this game. It's a tabletop role-playing game, GM-less, although you can certainly play with a GM if you'd like. And the basic idea is it's the last survival checks of your mightiest heroes. So based on this polymorph system from 9th level games, I was able to license with them and use their system to kind of hack it and make my own version. You play your favorite heroes. They could be from other campaigns. They could be wholly created for this campaign. And they're thrown into a magical wilderness, and they cannot escape it. At the beginning of the game, you roll your death saving throw to determine whether you live or die. And then you basically play to find out what happens to the rest of the group, to yourself. And you sort of interpret things as you go. The paradoxes mount as the catastrophes mount, and you have to figure out how to deal with incoming catastrophe. So it's been a lot of fun to put together, and I'm excited to share it with you today.
I'm excited to play it. I've read through the game. I'm very, very excited about it. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in? We are going to each make a character. This is a GM-less experience, so we will kind of be guiding the story for one another. We're each going to make a character, and then we're going to see what happens. So walk me through the process. We're going to start at our first stage, creating our hero, and then go from there.
Yeah. So the first thing you do in polymorph, you pick one die, and that's your die throughout the whole game, except for one interesting caveat. So there's no math involved. You have 4 main moves. And each move corresponds with a dice that is kind of best at that thing. So if you want to be great at magic, the move is called Manifest, and the item that you choose is a D4, which is a wand. You could be a D6, which is a bow, which is best at Manipulate, your kind of agility-based move. Sword is a D8, and that's good for melee, the main attack move. And then Axe is a D10, and that's a move called Muster, which is more of a sort of like social, think kind of like bolstering people, protecting people, inspiring people kind of move. So you start by deciding which dice you want to play with.
I'm putting thought into like which character. Okay, I think I've got my character. I was thinking a lot about the concept of a character from another game or another campaign or another previous thing.
Yeah.
And I was really trying to think about like a character that specifically what I was trying to pull on in my head was a character that I played in a game that did not like that I didn't get to finish, or that like we didn't get to like see the end of the story. And I think I've got my character in mind. I think I know exactly who I want to play. I've gone through I've gone through a list of old characters concepts that I've played, and I think I found the one.
Okay. Do you know which weapon they would use, quote unquote? Their tool.
I think
for
I'm gonna
problem solving?
I think I'm gonna use bow. I think I'm taking bow. I'm grabbing my D6. That feels good. This is a yeah. I'm going with bow. Bow is my character. Bow is my weapon. The D6 is my die. It's for dexterous precision. Should I tell you a little bit about the character?
Yeah, go for it.
So this is a character that I played in an off-mic game recently. And actually, no, this is a character that I played years ago in like half of a play-by-post dungeon crawl game. I don't actually have a lot of details about them.
Good.
Other than that, this is sort of a musketeer figure.
Ooh.
Musketeer in the very literal sense of like I am flavoring my bow as like an old-timey musket.
I love that.
Dug into a cavern. We got partway into the game, and this character is a crack shot. His name is Hansel Overbrook. And like I don't know a ton about him other than that he is like a noted sniper and hunter. So I've got a pretty blank slate to kind of like flesh this out and play. I do remember that he was markedly pragmatic in nature is how I would describe it. Like he is somebody that did not get in. He chose the bow. He chose the
musket.
He chose the musket because he did not want to fight close. Like that was kind of his viewpoint was I fight close, I fight safe, I learn my opponents, and I avoid the worst case situation at all times.
Right.
It's a very kind of pragmatic viewpoint for this character.
Well, you next get to choose a guild, and this is kind of like the class for this game. The guilds come with different luck points attached to them, which are ways that you can turn a failure into a success. So if you're thinking of it as a resource, it's pretty great to be able to have narrative control, right, when you want to. So there are a bunch, but the main ones are warrior, rogue, druid, mage, bard, cleric, and ranger. So what sounds like the most like your character? This musketeer.
I am leaning towards rogue. I like rogue as a like this is one of those instances where in the game that we were playing like really didn't fill in the details. It's easy for me to think about like ranger and kind of like pull on that sort of like wandering vibe, but like I think that this character is a little bit of a mercenary, a little bit of a crook, a little bit of a bounty hunter by trade. So I think that his deal is that he is a rogue by trade.
Wonderful. Yeah, the description for rogue is who needs the rules when you live by the code. Where you come from, this pact is more than mere guidelines. It's a lever you use to lift up the poor, the disenfranchised, and especially yourself. So sounds pretty dead on to me.
That feels good.
So you're going to start with 3 luck points. I'm using actual physical tokens just because I'm a board game nerd as well, so I have a bunch of things with me. But you can just use tick marks on a piece of paper or on your character sheet, whatever you're playing with.
I've got an ungodly amount of dice on hand, so I'm just going to grab some extra 6-sided dice, and we'll use these.
Works for you. And then you get to pick a drive. And this is something that is just kind of like, when in doubt, what does your character, what guides them? What are they driven to be doing? So there are a few options. There is to protect, to be free, to create, to balance, to impact others, to fulfill destiny, or to explore worlds. So you can kind of pick which one makes the most sense.
The vibe based on the character, based on the game that I played, the vibe that I have, I am going with to be free. I think to be free feels right. I think it is a it kind of ties into that, like, it kind of ties into that sort of wandering mercenary vibe a little bit of, like, it is not so much about, like, wanting something specific. It is about wanting to live on my own terms.
Yeah, it's very cowboy-esque at the same time as being musketeer, right?
Kind of the vibe that I got.
Love that. What's his name again? Or their name?
Hansel Overbrook, his pronouns.
Okay, Hansel. Love that. Okay, so you have your guild, which is rogue. You have your drive, which is to be free. You have your weapon, which is the bow, which we're reflavoring as your musket. Now you get to choose a feat of luck. And this is something that will, as a unique rule just for you, that will dictate how you gain luck points or can spend luck points in specific ways. So there's a bunch of options. The main ones: intimidating presence, nimble expert, chaotic arcanist, inspiring performer, shapeshifter, divinely favored, or wilderness adept. So is there anything from what you were playing in this cave, or as you're thinking about this independent, free, roguish musketeer, that makes the most sense for you? You think that would add to the complexity of the character?
I am gonna go with chaotic arcanist. I think is the vibe a little bit.
So
I like the energy because it's a +1 luck point on chaos or fail roll using manifest or melee.
That's right. So whenever you do a move that is a manifest move or a melee move, if you get a 1, which is the chaos roll, or you fail, you don't succeed. There are certain conditions where you'll succeed or fail. Then you're going to get a luck point. So you get a benefit out of chaos, essentially.
That feels great. I like that a lot. I think that the energy, I almost envision it as a little bit for this character, I almost envision it a little bit as it's a little bit backup plan, for lack of a better way to put it. Like, this character being big on, like, preparedness and backup plans to the backup plan. I feel like it's a good energy to be like, okay, something has gone wrong. I've got just the trick to pull out at this moment, and that's kind of where I envision these luck points coming from.
I love it. Great. So then you get to now decide for yourself what's a short, maybe 2 or 3 word phrase that describes your heroic silhouette. So taking your bow or musket, taking your rogue guild, taking your drive to be free, taking the chaotic arcanist feat that you have, is there a short phrase that kind of like gives your character silhouette in your mind? So like the subclass or the specific flavor of character. If we were to put them in a box, what would they look like? What's that outline? And then I'll do the same.
I'm thinking through this. I am gonna go with what just popped into my head because it feels right, and like feel like I'm getting a real handle on the character, which is a tricky bastard. A tricky bastard is the vibe of Hansel in a nutshell.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. Tricky bastard. Okay, so that's your heroic silhouette. There is a step where you can look further. Do you have the character sheet pulled up?
I do.
So there's a huge list of vibes, and this is where you kind of think about your character's kind of look, feel. So there's a huge list, and you pick 3 words. You've already mentioned your pronouns and your name. You can write tricky bastard there. And then, tell me what those 3 words are.
What those 3 words are, I'm gonna go with playful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with I like Mercurial.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense with being free.
I like Mercurial, playful, and to play against that a little bit, I'm gonna go with Scowling. I like the mix of Scowling and playful. I think there's something fun in that of like this is the vibe, the culmination of the vibe is like just a little bit Jet from Cowboy Bebop of like like friendly but like constantly seems a little annoyed at the situation and a little over it, but like ultimately friendly and good natured. I think that's Hansel's vibe in a nutshell.
Jet is perfect. Another tricky bastard, if you ever did see one. Cool. Can I share you what I've made just as a contrast?
Of course.
I prepared this in advance just because it helped with my nerves. So I decided to pick a mage, which is cool that you're a rogue, so we have a kind of magic duo, but in different ways. His name is Fang Frostbite. He is a transmutation mage who happens to be afflicted by the lycanthropy condition. And so he is a shapeshifter, which means he gets a luck point on manipulate crits, and he can spend a luck point to change his die size. I just wanted to play with that. The three ones, I was kind of thinking a little bit like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. So he's gangly, he's unkempt, but he's very tender. So that is his thing. His drive is to balance, just with kind of like matter being neither created nor destroyed, sort of like things are always in motion and moving from one state to another. That's kind of his ethos, I think.
Love it.
Yeah. And I just made that today, so I'm not doing what you're doing of pulling from a different campaign, but I'm excited to hear how that goes for you.
I'm feeling great. I'm excited.
And he's using a sword. That's like a sort of channel of his arcane power.
All right, so we have built our characters, which means I believe now it is time to gather around the fire.
All right. So, and you let me know, Jeff, how much of this you want to do. I did include some safety tools for the game. We're going to, as we've kind of already done, read out our names, pronouns, our silhouettes, and our weapons, and then share any elements of the look, vibe, magical, martial prowess, or backstory you want the group to know. And then we're going to make some storytelling agreements. The two or three questions I ask are how we let each other know when we need to move away from a particular path. The X card is a very common one. We could wave or come up with a word. And we can establish some things in advance that we don't want to focus on.
I know that we've already kind of briefly covered our lines and veils. I will say on mic we've got the X, N, and O cards in play. X card is a hard stop. We discuss, we cut a thing out, we pause, we move on. N card is if we want to shift the scene or like move away from a certain element without necessarily stopping the scene. And an O card is either, hey, I'm really enthusiastic about this, or it can be a check-in of like, hey, this is moving in direction. Are we cool with it? Let me check in beforehand. So that kind of, I think, is, so we've already got that in play. So I guess my question is like, what kind of stories do we want to tell, and what are we interested in exploring?
Yeah.
What's on your mind here?
Well, so this game, it came from, I was really introduced to role-playing games through my best friend, and he passed away back in 2017. And that was a huge, rock to my world and my system. And a lot of, what I'm doing really is a kind of way to honor him and honor that kind of creative spirit that I think he was encouraging me to have. So I do like games where, there are real consequences, where death is really on the table. So there's not plot armor, if something bad happens, something bad happens. I do also like things to be kind of goofy and fun. I think those tones are really lovely in contrast to both be very heartfelt and silly and also, more serious. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts, things that you're interested in exploring.
I think the thing that I'm most interested in exploring in this game, especially with like these characters, is a little like the question to me that I think I'm interested in kind of playing out is you are faced with it's a little bit of like you are faced with an unwinnable situation. So like what do you do to like what do you do in that moment? That's kind of I think the big dilemma that I'm interested in exploring, and I'm interested in exploring like what characters do to what's the words even like make their mark on a situation like what does that last stand look like, and what do they do to make an impact at a moment where they know that they are in an unwinnable situation.
Yeah, that's I love that. That's very in line with the kind of thinking of this game, and it's definitely something interested in exploring because it's like a rehearsal for a state of being we all kind of find ourselves in at times, where loss is just there and it's just part of life. I also think there's something nice about, the desire to be free, but also to be trapped at the same time. That's an interesting dynamic for you. And for me, like trying to balance things out when I may not be able to be a part of that balance anymore is interesting to me.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that.
Cool. Great. So then I have a little quick, the sort of talking about provoking a conversation about death, which we just did. So now we're going to move to the phase where we're going into the wilds. But before we jump into the wilds, which is the other major part of the game that we'll make some decisions upon, we have to decide how we're connected. So our first step is to choose our ties that bind. Here are a few options, and we can come up with something else if we want. But maybe there's a mysterious benefactor that hired us and didn't tell each other that there'd be a team, right? So we don't know each other, and we're coming into this thing where we actually have to work together. Or we've been in an adventuring party for a long time. This is our one last job. Or you're all secretly in love with the same suitor and you want to keep an eye on your competition. Or you're all related and your most beloved grandparent has asked you to join them for an important meeting. Or something else that you come up with. Is there anything that is appealing to you specifically?
I am immediately I like the angle of a mysterious benefactor hired you. I almost want to pull split down the middle between you've been an adventuring party for a long time and this is our last job and a benefactor has hired you and didn't tell you there'd be a team, and say, my pitch is, and tell me how you're feeling about this, that this is, because I think to peel back the curtain, I guess, is more of what I'm going to talk through on this approach of I am interested in the dynamic where we have worked together before and we are not necessarily getting to know one another.
Right.
That I think is the character angle that I'm maybe the least interested in, is we don't know / trust each other and we're trying to figure out how we relate to one another.
Right.
I am more interested in a character dynamic where we know each other for better and for worse. We kind of know our rhythms, and so maybe it is that talking through this, maybe it's that we were hired, we've been hired on the same jobs before, we're not a team, maybe intentionally so. Maybe it is very much a I don't want to work with you, you don't want to work with me, but we have been hired yet again on the same team together.
Have you ever seen the show Superstore?
Yep.
So there's that feeling of we're just kind of we're coworkers. We've been hired to do jobs together before. We may or may not like each other, but we're kind of stuck with each other in general. We're probably the two most well-known heroes in our area or something. So there's camaraderie, but also not intimacy, maybe.
The vibe that I get building off of that is the show that exists, the show that has a permanent residence in my brain that fundamentally shaped who I am as a person. It reminds me a little bit of supervillains on the Venture Brothers, where we are weird, strange figures, but there aren't that many of us. So we work together because of a sense of it is inevitable that we are going to cross paths because the field that we are in is weird and strange, and like we like our like the circles we run in are so small that we continue to run into each other just in a professional sense.
It's got this sort of mild, buddy cop vibes, but again, like independent contractor buddy cops or something.
Yeah, I like that.
Great. Then our second step is to decide what sends us into this wild. So again, we're going to a wilderness we cannot escape. There's no magic we're going to be able to cast or thing we're going to be able to do to get out of it. We know that as writers. The characters don't know that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So what sends us there? It could be an evil witch, wizard, spirit, or god that curses us. It could be a bumbling mage that screws up a simple transportation spell. It could be an ancient arcane item that is accidentally triggered. Our rival sister lays a trap to send you all to a custom-made plane of punishments. Our ex ends up with a powerful wish or something else that we invent.
I think what I want to build on the, like, someone has hired us to do a job, and I almost wonder if, like, whether it was that somebody hired us with the intent of sending us into the wild, or the two possibilities I'm going to throw at you are either that the person that hired us specifically because they wanted to send us specifically into the wild, at like it was a I'm getting the two of you off the table, or it is us being sent to the wild with the knowledge that we are not going to be able to, like, bring ourselves back, like, with the assumption that we will never be able to come back was part of the job but was not told to us. So it's sort of a, like, we needed to send somebody into the wild, we made the sacrifice, and these two are a couple schmucks that got shuffled into it. Or it is the job was a pretense to send you into a portal because I hate you.
You know how like warlocks and whatever their pact god or, spirit or dragon is, they have a deal. It feels like that. Like we're kind of sent for this plane of punishment to, like, give this being extra, pleasure or whatever. Like there's some payment, like we being sent into the wild are payment for it. So it's got that, like, our mysterious benefactor is, like, promising us riches or whatever, and then we get sent, but it's not really for any other reason than just so this warlock can keep doing whatever he's doing. Or
yeah, I kind of, the spin I want to put on that is, like, it is a what's the word? What was I? It's like a almost a doomsday pact is what I'm envisioning, of, like, a, it's the to seal this portal to the nether dimension, somebody's got to go through it. So we found some people and tricked them into going through it, which means it's better for everybody. Like the Lord of Nightmares is all satisfied because somebody got sent into the hellscape dimension, but it's probably not great for the people that walk through that portal.
This makes me think, like, there's like the sort of official adventuring party of this story, and we're the kind of, like, side NPCs or, like, the sort of cast off characters, and so then we're pushed in instead, and so then it's our story of what happens to us, kind of thing.
I mean, I wasn't in my head thinking about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern,
right? But there we
are. Now I am again thinking about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and so, like, that feels very right to me, like, and making that a little more explicit, like, I love, like, that kind of goes back to the pitch of, like, this was done to Sate, an eldritch entity. If we were the pulling a little bit more explicitly on that association, if there is a Hamlet that, like, quick-witted themselves out of danger by pushing a couple people into a portal, or by sealing the portal another way, we were those side characters that ended up on the other side of that portal.
It doesn't have to literally be Hamlet, but in my head it is. You know what I mean? Like, he is the benefactor, and he got us there and just yoinked us in at the last minute.
Like, It was that was his way of getting out of that particular death trap, was sending a couple hired mercenaries through a portal instead, and you know, his story is going to continue on and ours is stuck here.
Okay, wonderful. So now we roll our fates. Before we get sent into the wild, we as players want to know what's going to happen to us. This is the one roll that we make that is completely secret. So you don't tell me, you don't hit at it. It's obviously the most fun if you discover it through play and us telling the story together. You're going to roll your dice. That is your weapon dice, because that's the only dice you roll overall when you're making a move. And then if it is, half or higher, so for a D6, a 4, 5, or 6, then you are slated to survive. If it's a 1, 2, or 3, then you are slated to die. If you're not feeling comfortable with the concept of death in the game, literally, like someone's passed recently, or it's just not kind of feeling right for you for this moment, you can choose to be altered irrevocably, right? Like death is a transformation. So what could the transformation be that would radically change you, that you no longer are who you were? So those are some options for you. You succeed, you're still trapped in this wilderness. So it is kind of like you still have to deal with this, but this is kind of arriving to this point in this character's moment where they're going to be in this wilderness for as long as they are. Any questions about that?
No, I've got my you said D6,
yeah,
right?
For you, for your bow, or your musket, it's a D6, and I got my D8 for my sword. Let's see what happens. Okay. A couple of the things that are in this. So, you have as many essentially hit points as you have sides to your dice. So for me, I have 8. For you, you have 6. And whenever you receive a harm, you tick off one of those hit points. When you get to your maximum harm, if you are fated to die and you think it's the right time in your story, then you're free to die. If you are not fated to die, then you have to come up with a reason for why. Somehow, even though you're at max harm or beyond it, how do you cling to life in some way? So this game deals with those kind of paradoxes. They'll come up as you play because of the randomness of it. So as we go, there'll be various catastrophes that hit us. We'll take some harm, tick it off as you go, and then interpret as you will. It's just more information for you.
Love it. All right.
So now we're getting to the wild. So this is the essentially GM of the game. This is like the other character in the story, is where we're being sent to by this eldritch god as payment for Hamlet being able to continue his chaotic adventures in the main quest. We get to choose 3 main terrains of what this magical wilderness looks like, and then we choose one complication to give it a little bit more of a kind of distinctive flavor. So the options are, and we can always invent something else: forest, wetlands, island, mountain, glacier, demiplane of glass, desert, valley, jungle, rocky coastline, or tundra, or something else. So did any pop out to you immediately that you're like, ooh, we need to make sure we have this?
Tundra pops out to me immediately. I love a good tundra.
Okay, great. I think for me, I think a jungle in a tundra is kind of cool.
That feels cool.
It may or may not be icy. We'll see.
Maybe the third option is I'm going to throw out, I'm trying to think, I'm going to throw out Valley. I'm going to throw out Valley, and I'm going to spin it a little bit, which is to say like cave system almost, like partially above ground, partially underground cave system.
Oh, that is so cool.
My brain, in the name of naming our reference points, at the risk of aging myself live on microphone to the listeners, my brain immediately when I think about like the visuals of what's popped into my head is the N64 video game Shadows of the Empire, the Star Wars game. There's like a desert mountain level in that where it's a lot of like walking on cliff faces and sort of like shallow caves, and that's kind of the energy that pops into my head.
Definitely.
That plus like frozen icy tundra is very compelling to me. And then like jungle like canopy overhead and vines and things is all very compelling to me.
Yeah, and I kind of want it to not be like covered in frost. Like I want it to be strangely like fresh and luscious at the same time as all this ice and caves. That's great. And then the complication, there are a few essentially adjectives to help kind of flesh this out. There's breezy, pungent, sticky, on fire, cold, hot, deep, shallow, wet, arid, quantum entangled, covered in bees, lousy with bears, bat infested, or something else. So what do you think?
I picked what complication jumps into your head? I feel like I picked two of the terrains. What's the complication that really jumps out to you visualizing our sort of cave system jungle tundra?
Yeah, well it's something appealing about there being something in the caves, you know. I don't know if I want it to be bears or bats, just because that feels a little too easy. Like this should be something a little stranger. Although there's nothing wrong with something, you know, expected.
Yeah, I feel like I like that. I like there being something in the caves. I like there being something is like something pursuing us is also very compelling, and I almost don't want to know what that thing is. I want to like maybe just list it as like infested or occupied with like something that is stalking us and attacking us from the sides.
Infested with shadowy stalkers.
Yeah, I like that.
Great. I'm writing that down just so I don't forget. So when you're on the wild sheet, there's a table with it of 8 catastrophes. And every time you fail a roll for a move, which is, you know, the moves each have numbers associated with their successes. So if you don't roll the number that's on the move, it means you fail. If you roll a 1, you also fail, and it's called a chaos roll, where you fail doubly hard. Every time you fail, you add something to the wild. You add a token. And for the first 3 tokens, you just get to choose from this table. And as we go, I'm sure we'll explore a bunch of them. Things like frightened beings attacking, or the wild lashes out, or something unexpected happens. When you get to tokens 4 through 6, you just roll from a d8, so it becomes more unexpected. And then when you get 7 to 9, every fail in chaos adds 2 tokens, and you roll for each. So it becomes doubly difficult to get out. Also, whenever you roll a 1, a chaos roll, you add 2 tokens and roll twice. So it tends to accumulate very quickly, and I'll keep track of it as we go. Any questions about any of that?
No, that feels great. I'm excited.
Cool. Okay, so we have the catastrophe. We have our characters. What do you envision is this scene that transports us from wherever we are into this tundra with caves and jungle?
The thing that like transports us, I almost envision it as I'm going first, top of the head. First thing that pops out is I'm going for a Stargate. I'm throwing in a Stargate. There's a Stargate. Maybe it is like the visual effect of it. We find this Stargate like in a valley. We have traveled with this with our benefactor. We have come here. We have arrived. The Stargate opens up, and it kind of just looks the same on the other side. Like it sort of, and we walk through it, and we see that jungle fill in around us. Like that jungle, those plants and those spore clouds and vines and all of that emerges in the space on the same side, like on the other side of this Stargate.
I love that. I also selfishly, as a werewolf, like the idea of the being that created this Stargate being connected to the stars somehow and the moon, and so kind of like giving this unnerving feeling of like, why do we have to go through this? And then oops, poof, the Stargate disappears, and here we are. Now what we do is we have 2 players, and we add 1 for good measure. We're going to roll 3 times on the catastrophe table, and that is how we're going to start our adventure.
Okay.
So,
All right.
do you want to roll once or twice?
I will roll... I can roll twice.
Great, and you're going to roll a d8 for these 2.
Our first one is the wild becomes unbearable. Seek shelter. Describe what is happening. Everyone's next move is at disadvantage, and we take 1 harm.
Great.
Great, love that.
Let me roll mine then. Okay, our food supply is compromised. We can't heal any harm until we find a new supply. So you can spend a luck point to heal harm if you choose to. You can also give it to someone else to heal them. But we can't do that because any food that we brought with us is somehow compromised.
Okay. And I'm going to throw this to you.
Last one.
Do you want... I rolled a 2. Do we want to double up on 2, or do you want me to roll again?
No, let's stick with it. Let's see what happens. So we have to seek shelter because the wild becomes unbearable in 2 ways. And then we take 2 harm, and both of our next moves are at disadvantage, which in this game, disadvantage is you roll twice and take the lower number, because lower numbers tend to be not as successful.
Okay. So our next 2 moves are at disadvantage.
Yep.
And what I think I've got, I think I can spin these 3 things together. I think I've got an idea.
Yeah, go for it.
We step through the portal. You know, the 2 of us step through the portal. I think that our benefactor is there, like, alongside us and, like, starts to walk through.
Mm-hmm.
And then just stops as we cross the threshold, just kind of stops, rolls back, and they are gone from the other side of the gate. As soon as we step through that gate, this is humid. It is a jungle. I think lightning storm, like a thunderous, like, tundra lightning storm starts immediately, including a lightning blast that strikes the Stargate and crumbles it to ash.
Oh boy.
And as that is happening, there are quick O card check on bugs and carrion insects.
Good for it.
All right. A swarm of, like, particular, like, I think we step through, we roll out from a bush, or like a pocket in the ground bursts, like, clouds of particularly aggressive bugs that, like, gnash at our gear and our food supplies. Mm-hmm. And we have to kind of abandon our food, our rations and supplies, as we are immediately set upon by clouds of, like, it's almost a cloud of acid, because it just tears apart the bag and the rations so quickly that we just kind of watch it dissolve behind us as we run.
No, not my Scooby snacks. Great. And then we got to seek shelter. I think I'm going to notice one of the caves and try to run to it. I'm going to roll to manipulate. So I'm rolling my d8. On a 3, 4, or 5, I succeed. One thing I didn't mention is when you crit, when you get the highest number of your dice, you succeed, and there's an additional effect, which for manipulate is doubling the impact, the range, or the effect. So we interpret that as we will. And then remember your feat. For you, it's chaos rolls or fails, but for me, it's crits. Mm-hmm. So let's see if I can get to one of these caves. That is an 8. I just crit.
All right.
What does that mean? Double the impact. Maybe that just means I just grab you and we just, like, zoom.
That feels good. That feels good.
Sort of like there's a cartoon cloud of dust as we're just whoosh right into one of these dark caves.
Lightning bolts are crashing around us as we roll into this cave.
Just, like, spitting up the flies or whatever it was that was acidically burning our food, and just, like, zoomed in. Oh, you know what I forgot? This is at disadvantage. Maybe I'm not going to crit. Okay, that's a 3. That's still a success. So I guess I get there as I'm spitting the flies out, and you'll have to do your own move.
Okay. That feels okay. That feels good. I like that. I'm okay with this. I think I see you rush into the cave, and I am going to I think like I think I as much as there's not really a more interesting option for me, or like I think like the sensible option is the right one here of just I am booking it behind you as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a matter of ducking and weaving and sort of like sliding along ridges to sort of dodge lightning bolts and these sorts of ravenous insect clouds. So I think I'm also rolling manipulate.
Great.
That is a 2 and a 4, which is a failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we add a token to our wild sheet on a failure, and you get to choose from the table for the first 3. So there's 1 token on it. What would you like to choose?
I think this feels good. This feels like a good moment for this feels like a good moment for Frightened Beings attack. We've already said there are these things stalking in the shadows. This feels like a good moment for I am running behind you and like a shadowy force grabs me and like throws me down another cavernous hallway. So I am going to roll us a D8.
Uh-huh.
That is 2. We have 2 moves to make before the beings inflict that much harm. I'm going to guess both of those harm go to me because I am the one that's been grabbed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to declare. I'm going to declare that.
I think that makes sense. Do you have any sense of what, if anything, because I got into the cave already, would I have heard or seen anything? Do you shout or scream, or you just
I think I probably
disappear?
let out a shout. Like, I think that we're running kind of like close to one another. I think that it's kind of a side-by-side thing. You turn down a hallway and you hear a whoosh and you see a shadow grab me and pull me down a hallway.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I am going to spend a luck point with my shapeshifter feat to change my die size. I'm going to become a wand, a D4. And I kind of imagine I'm like shapeshifting into probably a bat, actually, since there's bugs around me. I might as well try and, be a predator to them. And now, relying on my echolocation, I'm flying back out of the cave that I was in, and I'm trying to find you by sending out these kind of like echolocation pulses. And I'm going to say that it's either manifest or manipulate. It's a little vague to me if you think one or the other makes more sense. Because it's kind of like a magical ability of an animal, but it's not really magical. It's natural. It's like perception.
Right. I think in that case, I'd probably go manipulate.
Right. So let's see. I'm rolling a D4 now to see if I can find you. Okay, that's a 2, so that is also a failure. But I will spend another luck point so that I turn that into a success. So I'm able to at least locate you with my echolocation.
And that is your second roll. That is your second roll at disadvantage, so no more rolls at disadvantage.
That's right.
Okay.
So we don't have to roll again. You are being pulled in by the shadow beast, and I now know where you are. What do you think you're doing?
I think in this moment, what am I doing? I think at this moment, I am probably... This is a melee. I think I am reaching into a pocket and like lighting a flare and just sort of waving sort of the flaming flare around, just like waving a little mini torch around, trying to light something on fire. Just trying to like burn away whatever force or limb or whatever has grabbed me. Just sort of panic. It's just it's fire and it's glowing smoke swirling around trying to stab at something.
I love that. So you have that move to do, and I think one more before it deals you 2 harm.
That is a 3 and a 4, so that is a 3. So that is a failure, but I am going to spend a luck point to turn this into a success.
Great. So do you see anything when it lights up?
What do I think? What pops into my head? I see the shadow itself burn away, Like, I see kind of like singe on the edge of just like singe on the edge of shadow is the only way to describe it. Like, it is the shadow itself that is grabbing. It is just a presence of pure darkness that is being burned away by this fire.
I love it. We're like, we don't really have an idea for what frightened being it's going to be. So it's just going to be an amorphous, shadowy force. And it becomes the coolest freaking thing in a lightning storm to fight. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Great. So I think I'm obviously noticing your flare, and you've kind of started to dissipate this thing. I'm going to fly into you. I don't think I should spend any luck points to transform back. So I'm just going to try and like whip around and see if I can like bite anything in there to just kind of continue to threaten it to get it to go away from you. So you see this bat now circling around you, squeaking. And I think that's also a melee move. So this is going to be tough for me, but we'll see what happens. But it's not a disadvantage anymore. That's a 2. So that is a failure. I think I'm going to have to take that. Just because I only have 2 luck points left right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see what is going to happen. I guess that's still, I get to choose from the catastrophe table. Feels like the wild lashing out makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like this shadowy force is burned back by you, then I'm kind of diving into it. And so it saps and kind of like drains some vitality from me. I'm thinking kind of like vampiric cloud kind of, kind of as there's like thunder echoing in this cave. So the wild of the storm somehow feels connected to this shadowy.
That feels good.
Shadowy figure. Oh boy.
And I think, like, as it is sapping your life from you, if this is my final move before it inflicts harm, so hopefully it is a success, I am going to roll back, pop my musket off of my back, and I'm taking a shot at it.
Go for it.
That is a 3 and a 6, so that is, I believe that is... What do we call it? Is this still melee?
I think this is still melee, if you're trying to hit it and attack it, right?
Yeah. So that's going to be a failure, but you know what? I'm going to push my luck here. I've got 2 luck points left. I'm spending one of them to make this a success, and I'd rather do that than take the 2 harm immediately.
Yeah. I
think that's the right option, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this aim, and I'm going to say that how that luck manifests is this is a musket, and it doesn't just fire with force, it fires with light and fire, and that light and fire burns enough of the shadow away that we're able to like get away at least for a moment.
Awesome. Yeah. I think now I definitely want to, shapeshift out of my little bat form, collect myself. Oh boy. That was wild. What was that?
Not something I want to encounter again, is what that was.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where we are, but maybe we should try to get out of these caves. Seems like there's stuff back here.
Yeah, the longer we're in these caves, the more of that thing we're going to encounter, and as previously stated, I'd like to avoid that, so I think that that's about the only option that we got.
Yeah.
Now, which way is out?
Ooh. Fang looks around, and I think it's fun that in this scuffle we've kind of like tumbled around. Certainly I have, transforming back out of bat mode, and like maybe with the storm getting so dark that like it's not very clear where the entrance to the cave is anymore. Like something in this swirling darkness kind of like confused us. So I guess I will try to kind of creep around and see if I can find a way forward, kind of feeling my way in the dark. So I'm going to roll to manipulate again. Okay, that is a chaos roll. So I couldn't change it even if I wanted to. That moves us to 4. So that means that we have to now roll from the catastrophe table. We don't get to decide. And I have to roll twice. So I got a 7. Our food supply is still compromised. We still can't heal, which makes sense, right? All of our food got burned away. And then a 4, the wild lashes out. Describe it as everyone takes 1 harm. What do you think that happens there?
I think that we're lost in the caves, right? Like we are, and I think that is our food supply is lost, is still compromised. Is that like we are lost in the caves, and something else in the cave is going to lash out specifically. I think it is the ground drops out from beneath us.
Yes.
And we come tumbling, we go like crumbling down a hill, crashing against walls and things until we land at like a deeper, lower level of these caves.
I just kind of like twist my ankle as I land.
There is like I think we have landed, pulling on those terrain descriptions again. We have landed deep in like an underground jungle, and there are spores in the air. It is humid, even as there are like frost and icicles on the cave walls. It is still like humid, and the air is thick, and we are trapped in here.
Do you think there's like any source of light? It sounds like there is, if we can kind of see all this. The storm's still kind of up above.
Yeah, I like that there's the flashing of thunder up above is just kind of like periodically lighting the area in that sort of like neon blue just for a moment.
Man.
And maybe, actually, I'm going to call for, actually, that itself is enough of a challenge that I am going to call for a roll here.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to make a roll here. I am no longer rolling with disadvantage, which is nice. But I am at 2 harm. 2 harm? Am I 2 harm or 3 harm? I think I'm at 3 harm.
I think it's 3 because we just took 1 harm.
We just took 1, yeah. And then we took 2 because the darkness is lashed out.
Yep.
Lashed out twice. So I'm at 3 harm. I am going to roll to manipulate. I'm going to roll to pull out another one to find. I guess this actually might even be a manifest summoning something. Well, let me ask you. I want to maybe try and set up some of these flares to light our space. Do we think that feels more like a non-magical manifest or more like a manipulate?
You've described having flares before, but you are a chaotic arcanist. Do you think these are like flares that you light with like a cantrip, like a magical source?
I kind of like that there's a magical effect to them.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm going to go with a manifest.
Right.
This is a 2 or a 3. That is a 1. That is a chaos.
Okay. So we are now at...
Oh, wait, but that also means...
you get another luck point.
I get a luck point.
So we got 2 more tokens on the wild sheet. That means we're at 6 now. So you have to roll 2d8, and we have to deal with both catastrophes that befall us.
That is a 5. Something unexpected happens instead. How does this impact everyone's fate? And a 4. That wild is lash. I know exactly what this
wild
is.
Hates us.
Wild does not like us. We are taking some harm today. We light the... I think I successfully light these flares. This is that moment of we light the flares just in time to see the gigantic beastly rancor monster looking thing ignites and just and we are just staring at this thing that is crushing down on us and thrashing down with tentacles and arms and flailing.
Oh god. Okay. Truly a nightmare beast from the shadows into the flesh, right? So we both get whipped. Fang just gets slashed by one of these tentacles. And then with the something unexpected happens, you can either choose to take 1 harm or disadvantage on your next move. I only have 3 harm left, but I also only have 1 luck point. I'm a little worried about that. So I think I'm going to take the harm, personally. Okay. What are you going to do?
I think I am also going to take that harm.
So I
think there's a tentacle that grabs me by the throat and hurls, smashes me repeatedly into a wall and just bashes the hell out of me.
So I think just for flavor, I'm not going to spend my luck point to transform, but I'm trying to attack, but I want to become as big as as possible to attack. I'm going to shapeshift again into a big grizzly bear. and just try and slash him with my big paw instead of my sword. And just kind of like wrestle with this rancor thing, see if I can get him away, like push him back from us, threaten him. So I'm gonna leap into action, and that's a 5, so that succeeds. So I sort of like have pushed him up against one of these frosty walls of the cave, and hopefully kind of like giving you a chance to get your shot in as well. He's sort of like pinned.
Yep, I'm taking that shot. I am battered. I am at 5 harm. I'm taking this shot. That is a 4. That is a success.
Nice.
I think I catch this thing right between the eyes, and it crumbles. I think we get this gigantic fight between gigantic beasts, and then it's just like you hear the bang. It's right between the eyes, and it just crumbles.
This falls down. Maybe I like take a bite out of it. I'm like, no food supply. Great. Yeah. I think, yeah. What do you think we do now? Sort of sniffing around.
Yeah, I think that we've got to investigate. We got to investigate like this cave system in it. See if we can maybe find a place to lay low for the night, or see if we can get back out into open air and out of this cave system.
Yeah. Something I mentioned, or I didn't mention, that I wanted to mention of the character sheet is that I also have a table called Something You Can Always Do. So if you ever have a moment where you're like, okay, well, we succeeded, what do we do now? There's 6 options, and you can even roll a d6 to see which one you want. But there's like explore the surrounding area, build a shelter, gather resources, track beings, marvel at beauty, or even tell a story. So it seems like explore the surrounding area is what we're both wanting to do.
That feels
so
right.
Maybe we both roll manipulate and see if one of us succeeds.
Let's do it.
Sniffing around my big bear snout.
And that is going to be a 3, 4, or 5 on a d6. That is a 5. That is a success for me.
And I got a 4, so I also succeeded. So what do we find?
I think that we find this creature, like this creature's domain, right? Like this creature's den. Like we descend lower, and there is like a den of this creature that we are like investigating, and like there is some and since you succeeded, what do we find in this den that is interesting to us? I think that it is like almost a little bit of a dragon's horde is the vibe that I'm getting. Like it is like a colossal space, like open, and there are I'm picturing a lot of like fungus on the walls, like fungal covered walls, and what is there waiting for us?
I think that we find 2 things. I think we find a much larger hole that opens up into the sky. And at this point, I'm going to propose that like the storm is cleared a little bit, so there's like stars in this night sky above us. And then that pool of starlight and moonlight pours down onto just a pile of corpses, just like tons of other heroes. So there's plenty of stuff and probably food, right? There's like, elvish bread and like all those kinds of things we can use, but also there's a bunch of dead bodies, and it's feels a little bit like there's maybe even like an altar there, like this beast was kind of worshiping these stars. So there's something ritualistic about this way this whole pile is situated, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's great. I think there's and I think it's this I think Hansel, when he sees this, I gotta lean into my silhouette a little bit. Like leans on a wall for a little bit, breathes deep, and starts kicking at bags and poking around at things to see like what he can find, because I gotta lean into the bastard part of a tricky bastard. I think that this is a moment of this character like pointedly not accepting the fate that has been presented to him and going like, I'm gonna like I'm going to violate whatever rules I need to violate and do whatever I got to do to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. I think as you're doing that, Fang is definitely feeling the opposite in this feeling of balance of like these corpses should be in the ground. They should be buried. They should be able to give back to the earth. Excuse me. They should be able to give back to the earth. So in this kind of look of horror on this big bear's face, he growls and just starts to paw at the earth to kind of like try and break up some dirt and rock and mud and kind of like start to create some places to bury these bodies. Just kind of like huffing and I think if Hansel was paying attention at all, he would get the sense that like this bear ain't happy with him, but he's just focusing on digging and then grabbing and putting bodies in.
I think that's probably, I am going to call for, because this is almost exploring the surroundings of like digging and making this, and I think that's almost a little bit of a manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost think, do you think I'm rolling manipulate or muster here?
I think muster, because you're trying to gather resources, and that very literal sense of muster of like mustering everything, like pulling everything together. Mm-hmm. I think it makes sense to be a muster roll.
Okay.
But I'll dig for manipulate. I got a 5, so that is a success. Starting to put these bodies to rest.
I'm happy for you. I'm very, very happy for you that you received this at this moment, because that's going to be a couple more it's going to be 2 more tokens on our... That's going to be 2 more tokens on our catastrophe, and that puts us up to how many? It's like 5 or 6?
No, we're actually at 8, my friends. So you got another 1. Great. So you do get another luck point. Yep. Remember that. But again...
I do? That was a muster, so I don't think I do, actually.
Oh, it's only when you do manifest or melee. That's right. So you don't get a luck point. We get 2 more. We are past 6, so now... Actually, every fail and chaos roll will add 2 tokens. So we roll from the catastrophe table for each token. So you got to roll twice. Yeah. And we're at 8. So we're almost
something unexpected happens.
Okay.
And the wild becomes unbearable.
Oof. So we take a harm, and our next move is at disadvantage. Oh boy.
I think our next. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna limit this. So here's what I'm gonna say here, because I know exactly what the unexpected thing is. And maybe it's entirely expected, but I'm gonna lean it. But it's unexpected to the characters, if not us. I think that you've only got disadvantage on your next action because you were laying bodies to rest, which means that when the ghosts of these sacrificed souls got angry, they saw you as friend.
Okay.
They are not happy with me, which means my next 2 actions are at disadvantage because I am being chased by a horde of ghosts and zombies.
Makes perfect sense.
And that is why the wild has become unbearable. Is like this is there are ghosts, pounding at the walls and like bleeding through the cave walls. The force of death is like moving in this space.
I love that.
So your next move is at disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
I am taking 1 more harm, which puts me at 6 harm. So I have to decide what happens here.
Yeah. Now I will say one thing. So I didn't mention this at the top, that when you feel like you're getting to the end, either because you're at max harm and you're fated to die, or the wild has 10 plus tokens on it, or just you feel like it's time to end the story, you can call for a last stand. This particular move, everyone gets 1 additional luck points, and then you roll 1 final time on the catastrophe table. Anyone can spend any luck points they want to re-roll the final roll if they don't like it, and then you make 1 final move and narrate how it reveals your fate.
I think this is my last stand.
Yeah.
I think this is it. I
Feels
think
right.
that we are swarmed upon by a swarm of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you think
everybody gets?
Do you think really quickly that these are the same thing as the shadows that were attacking us earlier? It feels like kind of shadowy ghost to me. What do you think?
Like that. I think that now that we are in like a space that is illuminated, we can kind of see that they have the sort of same murky figures, and like we can kind of see that glow to them.
Mm-hmm.
that this cave was this cave and this creature were the resting place of the people that were sent through the Stargate to die before.
Yep.
And we are now faced with all of the bodies that have been sacrificed to this spot previously.
Mm-hmm.
And they are coming at us to make us join their ranks.
Great. So
Okay.
I interrupt you, though. We each get another luck point.
Yep, so that puts me at 3 luck
I have
points.
2. Now, do you want to roll one last time on the table?
I do. Which table is
The
this?
wild sheet.
Which table am I rolling?
This the
wild
same
sheet.
one, yeah.
Got it. Yes, I do. That is a 4. The wild lashes out.
These zombies are just rushing us, and the spirits are...
They are fully rushing.
Okay, so now each of us gets one move. I like that. I think, I guess you don't take the luck points with you, but I think wild lashing out again makes the most sense. There's just surge of so many of them flooding into this cave.
And I think I'm going to call for my move and reveal my fate first.
Go for it.
Because I think it's important here.
Okay.
I think like this is occurring and like we are running and we reach a point where we're on a cliffside and like there are zombies crawling the cliffside to come to us. There are ghosts peeling through the walls behind us, and we are well and cornered by this. That is the wild lashing out. It has cornered us. And I am going to let me look at my actions because I know what I want to do. I think this is going to be manifest. I think I am manifesting here. Because I think that what I am doing is like I look at you. I am throwing you. I take my musket off and I kind of toss it to you. And I look down at all of these souls and like I step to the edge. I'm going to reveal my fate before I roll. And then I'm going to ask you what you think this is.
Great.
I'm living. I'm surviving this. But I think that given this character wants nothing more than to be free, I think that survival comes at the form of, like, in this moment, becomes at the form of becoming, like, inextricably tied to this place. And I think at this moment that takes the form of, like, stepping up and demanding the attention of these ghosts, because if we just killed whatever was harvesting these souls, then these souls need a direction and these souls need a leader. And I think that I am conjuring through force of will and chaotic magic a call to the wild of stop what you're doing and pay attention.
Amazing. Yeah, it definitely feels like manifest to me, or muster, whichever one you prefer.
I'm gonna roll muster.
Yeah.
I like that this is a kind of inspiring courage.
And it sounds like kind of like taking command of this army of the dead, essentially being like
that's kind of the vibe. That's a 5. That feels good. That feels really good to get a success on, frankly.
It's so good. You just gathered. So what is it like? Do you transform? What does it look like as this cry comes out?
I think before I hand you my gun, I shoot it into the air. Like I fire my musket into the air. I hand it to you, and you see my hands go behind my back in a very like commander position, and you see like ghosts swirling around me as everything just freezes, and I begin to talk. I begin to say, "You have been left here not to die, but to rot. What say we stop rotting in solitude and start living as an army, and we fight for something real in this place of endless misery?" And you see the life bleed out from me. Like you see visibly it looks like I am decaying before your eyes, but also at the same time, like I seem to be growing at the same time. I seem to be like growing a little bit taller and my shoulders a little bit broader and like becoming something greater than myself a little bit, almost like these ghosts, these spirits, these souls are kind of feeding into me as I am offering them through sheer force of will and sheer refusal to accept death. I am offering them a second chance at life, and they are feeding into me. I am communing with these ghosts, and like I think like as they are standing at attention and swirling around me, like this eldritch necromantic being, this death knight turns and stands back, like looks in your direction and just kind of gives you a little bit of a rictus smile and just mutters, "You're going to want to get out of here while you have the chance. I think I got this from here."
And I think Fang shouts, "No, don't do this to yourself." And
I give you like a wink and a 2-finger salute and like turn back like with the 2-finger salute. I turn back and just kind of fall backwards off of this cliff, and you see wings burst out of my back as I become a divine entity of death in this moment.
Can I add something to this? As you're before you unfurl the wings, because I think this is a perfect chance for me with my fate. I think when you threw the musket at me, I shifted out of bear back into my more humanoid form to take the musket. And as you are leaping off the cliff, I'm going to try to transform into a giant eagle to sort of fly and catch you, because I can't accept that you are becoming this king of death. And then I'm going to roll and see how I do. I think, what do you think? Manifest or manipulate?
That feels like manifest. This feels like you are conjuring something, especially in a hurry. This feels like you are conjuring a form, so that feels like manifest.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, so that is a 4, which means it's a failure, which is perfect.
I will happily spend a luck point to change that.
Well, you can only heal
or to re-roll.
Me. You can't spend a luck point to re-roll, unlike in D&D.
Got it.
But this is okay, because as I am doing this, I think I am able to transform. But as I'm doing it, as we're cresting, the moon peeks out through the storm and the clouds, and it's like my werewolfism kind of breaks with the eagle. And as I'm trying to grab you, your wings are unfurling. There's this strike of lightning, and I end up falling to the ground. So my fate is that I am destined to die. So in this desperate last attempt to try and save you, I end up becoming one of your army.
And I think like there is a moment of like tying back into that theme of balance. Like there is this moment of I walk to your body, and I think I look at it, and it is this lycanthropic form, and I find and I wait a moment, and there is in this moment no sadness to it, because I think I give it a moment, and then I give you like a kick in the side. And you rise up, and we are now both even alive and dead, but in a state of undeath. Like I think, like I have brought you into a state of undeath so that you can fight by my side, because I gave you my word that we're getting out of here.
Yeah,
and we're going to get vengeance on the person that sent us here.
And I think you see this kind of, in the decomposing flesh as this almost like half bird, half wolf is, clambering up onto his feet jerkily with these giant claws and sort of half beak, half fangs. There's just like this hardness that you've never seen out of me before in all our different gigs. I've been more of the tender, sweet one and getting a little, innocent and lost. And now there's just this determination and violence in my eyes as I sort of take my place as your lieutenant, I guess, on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Something is really radically transformed in this death for me.
That feels great.
And I think that is the end of Hero Catastrophe. I do have this little epilogue where I just say you can take a moment to process how the story ended, reflecting on what you liked, what was awesome, what was tragic, and then raise a glass to your heroes and sing a song of remembrance. So anything you want to process or reflect on of that? That was wild.
I really like where we ended on. I like where we ended. I really like that this turned into a story of like, I kind of said that we had that question of like, how do you react to an unwinnable situation, and that sense of what's the word?
Like
that sense of like almost refusal to admit that, and the sense of like allowing that refusal to change who you are on a fundamental level is like incredibly compelling.
Yeah. Yeah, and for you, this decision to stay free because you were fated to survive, that like you kind of accepted and transformed yourself, and then I refused and then died, and then I was sort of radically transformed anyway, even if I didn't quote unquote, die in the sense of like my character was completely inert now. It's a really fun take on this idea of like, how do you deal with death? Because now there's this sort of revenge narrative of these two side characters. This is the birth of the new villains to the future big bad of the next arc. Yeah. And I was surprised at how, because I chose this word tender, thinking it's kind of fun to be like a tender werewolf. But to be like, seeing you rifling through the stuff and being like, we have to bury these bodies, that like this sense of there is this sort of softness that then gets killed more than anything. I really like that.
Yeah, that was really, really great. I really enjoyed this. This was cool. This was cool as hell.
This was so fun. It's almost like Pirates of the Caribbean. You're like becoming this skeletal Nightmare King thing. I really like that.
Yeah.
It was very epic. Very well told, Jeff. I really liked the way you described that.
I had a blast. This was great. I had such a good time with this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had a lot of fun too.
So, thank you so much for playing this with me. Before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work, and the game online?
So, I am on Twitter, I guess, still? ? Yeah, I'm there.
Provided it still exists, which could change at any given day.
It's really hard to know. But I'm on Twitter and Instagram at echolocated. So, much like the bats, ECHOLOCATED. And you can also find me, my website is markkennedyperformance.com. And then I have a link for my game, which the PDF is up on DriveThruRPG, and probably by the time this is out, the hard copy will be available as well. So you can just go to bit.ly/Hero Catastrophe to get it there.
Thank you again for joining me on the show. This was so much fun. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap things up. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Mark for coming onto the show. That game was incredible and breathtaking, and like I really got swept up in the fantasy and the horror and sort of the desperation of it. It was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad we got to play it. Be sure to head to the show notes to pick up your own copy of Hero Catastrophe, and be sure to follow Mark on Twitter, I guess, at Echolocated. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. Find us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast. Find us on Tumblr at Party of One Pod. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/Party of One Podcast. And join our Discord community at bit.ly/Party of One Discord. If you enjoy the show, there's a lot of ways to support it. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/Party of One merch. Or, if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener-submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.